7, 6, 5, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Well, hey everybody, welcome to Freethought in Florida. Freethought in Florida is a production of the Atheist community of Polk County. We're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I'm Sarah Ray. I'm one of the directors of the Atheist community of Polk County and your host for tonight's Freethought in Florida. This is Friday, March 5th, 2021. Devon Graham should be joining us a little bit later. We're going to update on how things are going in the Florida Legislature this session. But before that, we have a very special interview. So let's just get right to that. My guest tonight is J.R. Becker, best-selling author of the Annabelle Aiden series of children's books, dedicated to inspiring a new generation of scientists, thinkers, and all-around adventurers. These books foster curiosity, wonder, and critical thinking skills by exploring the line where science and philosophy meet. There's a new book coming out soon called Oh My Gods, A History of Belief. J.R. Becker, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, Sarah? It's so good to be here.
Great. Hey, I'm so excited to get to talk to you. You have been on my list for a little while. I think maybe once upon a time I tried reaching out and our schedules just didn't line up or what, I'm not sure. But it's great that I get to talk to you now, especially with the new book coming out. So I appreciate you taking some time to do this. Let's just dive right in and talk about the genesis of this whole children's book universe. There'll be puns for days. How did you get into this? How did you decide to start writing on this topic and become best-selling author of children's books, J.R. Becker?
All right. Yes. I never know whether to tell the long story or the short story, but I'll tell the
long story.
Okay. I mean, basically, I love writing. I love philosophy. I love big questions. I'm so bad with this, but I think it was about 12 years ago. I was in law school, and I had always had a dream of writing an epic, great American novel. So long story short here, but I was in law school and I was behind on my credits, and they said I would have to go to summer school in order to graduate on time. And I kind of said out of the corner of my mouth, under my breath, I'm like, oh, I wanted to write a novel this summer. And the registrar at law school was like, about what? Because if you could sell that novel idea to a professor, that could be like a research paper. And I'm like, wow, I'll make this book. This book is about philosophy and gods and mythology. And it's kind of like a Lord of the Rings fantasy, but each nation represents a different philosopher and they live their life according to a comically exaggerated version of that philosopher's philosophy. Anyway, I sold it to a philosophy of law professor and ended up getting like 6 law school credits out of it and an A+, and it helped my GPA. And so that was awesome. And the bad thing is the novel took me 4 years to actually finish.
Oh,
and that was like, wow, I'm never doing this again. And, I sell like 2 copies a year. So years later, I'm like, I love writing, but I'm not writing a novel again. Wait a second. Children's books, people actually buy because it's not nearly as much of a commitment. I'm an artistic person. I love art and illustrations, and I love breaking down complex stories into a small amount of words. And at that time, I had become an atheist, which is something we could talk about also. That's its own story. But atheism left, growing up very religious as I did, and then becoming an atheist, at the beginning leaves a large hole. Like, what do I believe in? And what is real? And what can I get excited about? And like many atheists, like many conversion stories, I was left with a huge gap. And I was extremely excited about learning, the evidence-based stories. And I was like, wow, kids aren't learning this stuff. Like every kid in America knows, whether they believe it's true or not, they know about Noah's Ark and they know about Jack and the Beanstalk and they know all these stories. But I think that it's really win-win-win. Like the truth is the greatest, most exciting story of all. And it just so happens to be true. So you're learning at the same time, and you could use that information to change the world. It's just, I felt like there was a huge plethora, there was huge gap of secular children's books about these big, deep questions that we often thought were too big for children. So I came out with the first book on evolution called The Story of Love. So I started this book series called Annabelle and Aiden, named after my two children. And we put out a book on evolution. And a week later, it did okay, but a week later, there was an article condemning it and banning it by Ken Ham's organization.
Of course.
Yes. And I was actually quite scared. I was not used to this kind of thing. And after that article came out, though, the sales started pouring in and people loved the book. And I realized this is it. This is what I'm doing. So we came out with a second book and a third book. And now we're at, we could talk about each one, but now we're at 6 titles. And now we're launching our 7th, and pre-orders are open right now for just 23 days at AnnabelleAnden.com. So that's it.
The idea of like taking on evolution as the first topic, like right into the fire. Like we hear people all the time talk about, oh, you atheists, we're indoctrinating kids into atheism with your, evolution and science or whatever. Was that Ken Ham response? Was that a flash in the pan? Has that been a steady ongoing thing that you've had to battle?
Not so much. They're not idiots. I sent them a public letter saying, thank you, Ken Ham, and all it's the Christian News Network. I said, thank you. You inspired me to write a second book on critical thinking. And I sent them that book, hoping they would ban that one as well. And they're not complete idiots. They knew what I was doing. Sure. And now they ignore me.
They found your sales figures and went, oh, yeah. Shit. Shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. So no, it hasn't really. I haven't really faced negative feedback. I'm sure that people are offended by my books, a small minority, but they don't really reach out to me. I'm not really attacked at all. It's kind of like, yeah, okay, that's what they believe. The people haven't really bothered me so much. A few negative reviews on Amazon, sure. But that's about it.
Well, take us through some of those other topics then. You said we're coming into book 6. What else have you hit on through the book series?
So the Annabelle and Aiden series is now 6 titles. The first is Evolution. And then we did, by the way, Evolution, I wanted to get to first, not just because it's the most fiery, but it really, I think, is the most important and most exciting to me. I know a lot of people, like Neil deGrasse Tyson is very excited about cosmology, astronomy. To me, it's evolution, like physics and astronomy. It's way out there. Evolution, I mean, I look at my knuckles and feel my eyes and my tailbone and my, like it's my body. It's the way I think, my psychology. Why do people like sweet foods? Well, I mean, it's amazing to me. It blows my mind. Okay, and then the second book was called Oh, the Things We Believed, and that's on mythology and critical thinking, storks delivering babies, just a lot of fun, witches, demons, just kind of a really fun and whimsical, fairies and elves kind of lesson in critical thinking and the scientific method. And then I did the book that I didn't want to do because it's so done, but it's probably our most popular one. It's called Worlds Within Us, and it's about how we're all made of stardust, and it's about the Big Bang. And I have to say, my artist, Max Rambaldi, did so well on these, so I'm really grateful to her. And then the fourth one is actually I think it's the best one we ever wrote, and it's the riskiest one, and it's the most popular now. It's called What Happens When We Die. And this was hard to write. I took a big risk, and people were begging me. A lot of homeschoolers and a lot of people were said they don't know how to talk to their kids about death. Their kids are asking about death. There isn't really a secular book on this. So this raised the most amount of pre-sales, and people were very excited about it. And I'm more proud of this book than any other book we've come out with. And this just talks about how we have to mortality gives our life shape and meaning, and without it, we would just get bored living forever. And that this is the only life that we know that we have, and we have to make it as meaningful as possible and celebrate it. And when we die, our energy never dies. We all know oh wow, it's the first law of thermodynamics, right? No, yeah. Oh gosh, it's the second.
Second,
isn't the second entropy? Oh wow, I have to look this up. This is embarrassing. It's only because I'm live. But anyway, one of the laws of thermodynamics is energy is never destroyed. It's never created or destroyed. So someone in the audience could leave in the comments if that's the first. I think it's the first law of thermodynamics.
Yeah, we'll get letters.
yeah. I'll get kicked for this. Okay, and then the fifth book is called Sapiens, and that's about human evolution and human ancestry and how we all came from Africa. And then the sixth one, wow, this is a lot. We're at the last one. It has a satirical title, and it's called This World Was Made for Me. And it's about how this world was not made for us. It does not belong to us, but we belong to it. And we have to be so grateful and appreciative that we're here and treat our planet with respect. And that's it. That brings us to book number 6, which we just launched the Kickstarter campaign. People could pre-order it now at AnnabelleAiden.com for just like 23 days, or probably 15 more days or so. And that is about a history of belief and a history of religion and comparative religion and mythology for children.
That's fantastic. Let's go back a couple of steps. It is the first law.
Okay, good.
Entropy is the third.
Okay.
So what I like about this so much is that, and I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago with Dale McGowan. I'm a parent of 2 kids. I have a busy life. Like, boy, if I could just sit down and do nothing but focus on this kind of stuff. But we don't. We're really just doing the best we can. Like, as a parent, if there is one thing I learned about my parents becoming a parent, is that none of us have a damn clue what we're doing. We are all literally winging it from one day to the next, just trying to get through, right? And so what I like about this is, like, these books are tools that you can just slip into the toolbox that are fun and have the visual is amazing, and the illustration draws kids in, and so I like that there are these age appropriate things that you can just slip into the mix. Like, we're reading Dr. Seuss, and now we're reading this, and it's all just part of the joy of exploring through learning and reading, and so I love that, and I love that that you're taking on topics that aren't traditionally written about for kids. And it is hard as a parent to, how do you talk to your kids about death? You're right.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm trying to, some of my books are about issues that we do talk about with kids easily, but a lot of them are about questions that parents dodge because we don't know what to say. So I try to give parents the words to say in an evidence-based way. And I try to keep my books open for religious parents too, people of faith. I make a great effort to make my books pro-science and not anti-anything.
Yeah.
So that's also, and we've had I'm friendly with 2 other authors that are religious Christians, and they they read my book that's open now for pre-orders, Oh My Gods, and they were like, I agree with this. This is the history of the different gods. And then my book kind of closes with the lesson that throughout history, the gods that we have created and worshipped are reflections of ourselves and our deepest longings and our deepest fears and our deepest dreams, and have brought out our best and our worst. So I try to make it appealable to everyone.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, we're in Florida. We see all the time efforts to, inject religious teachings into public schools, and it's always a specific flavor, and we often hear like, oh, you're so against that. And I'm against it because it leaves out all of the other things. If it were a comparative study of religion, historical to the present, I'm down for that. Let's do that. Right. That's a great thing to teach kids, but it's never that, unfortunately.
Right.
And you sort of mentioned this too, talking about your deconversion, and you're welcome to talk a little bit more about that too. But like, those of us who grew up religious didn't get this. And so when it comes to raising our kids, this wasn't information that was given to us as kids. So we're having to sort of seek it out, find it, and help them. And I don't want to say fill in the gaps, because again, this is one of those how to think, not what to think things, right? Like we're trying to teach you how to think through all of these different issues. But yeah, that's just not a resource that we come naturally equipped with, I guess.
Right. I remember we did have a science class where they taught us evolution, but I don't know if they really called it evolution, but we talked about how, certain species could change slightly over time sometimes. Like, we didn't talk about like, dude, you came from earlier primates, and every single animal on the planet is literally related and literally descended from the same ancestor, which was the first living thing ever. And that's freaking awesome. Like, no, it's like, the peppered moths in England, when the Industrial Revolution, like, yeah, but like, between you and me, like, I'm glad they start with that story, but that should be a starting point. But it just ended there. And then it was kind of like, if you have questions about this, don't, go see the rabbi, and don't, and then the rabbi would be like, what, we have to teach you this. He wouldn't say it's false, but he wouldn't say it's true. He would say, yeah, this is it. And, we'll, read this book and, try to, sweat it out and figure something out. But it was not celebrated. It was harried over and kind of minimized. And I'm like, I mean, when I was way older, yesterday was my birthday. So now I'm 39. Thank you. But yeah, well, I didn't know until I was maybe 27 or 28 or something that evolution explains, my own body structure and my psychology and my taste in foods and music and goosebumps. And I mean, it's so cool. Yeah. So
yeah, well, my kids were talking. So my kids are 5 and 10. So we're right in the window of starting to learn all of the critical thinking stuff. And one of them, we have a dog and a cat, and one of them said something about the cat's eyes, and that opened a conversation of like, isn't it cool how eyes have evolved differently in all of these different types of creatures? Like, that's cool. That's a thing we should get excited about. That's neat. How did that happen? Let's go find out.
Right. Absolutely. And I love, let me try to remember what book it was. I don't remember. Wait, oh man. I don't remember, but a recent book on evolution, I don't know if it was Dawkins or Nye or someone else, they basically, is the word homologous, like if an animal's joints are homologous to our joints. Like you could look at different species and see certain traits and features and which stem from the same thing. like a dog's leg, the bottom of it has like a joint, like about 6 inches up. That's homologous to our ankle. Like that was an ankle, you know, and I have a dog now and I look at that, I'm like, that's our ankle. Like that's, it's so cool the way we're all related. And I think it only cultivates respect for our environment and for living creatures. Which is the opposite of what you see, not all the time, but often on the other side. Just this week, Ken Ham had a post quoting a Bible verse about how every animal was made for our pleasure and kind of making fun of some Hollywood actor for condemning factory farming, basically saying the Bible justifies that we could do pretty much whatever we want with animals and I would, I don't want to generalize. I would it differs around the world. I'm not going to pretend that that's the sentiment among all religious people because it is not. But it's a big problem when that's justified by religion. So evolution does exactly the opposite.
Well, I mean, wasn't he the one that just this week was, shame on you for this Mars mission because we could have spent all those billions of dollars proving evolution false or creation real or some nonsense.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh God. Well, so I think about like my experience in school, and I'm 41 now.
Okay.
So and I grew up in a real small town in the middle of Illinois. 1,400 people, high school graduating class of 32, small town.
Okay.
And so, like, I don't remember there being an anti-science or anti-evolution sort of movement. Like, I know those things existed. And one of the things that you said is like straight out of the talking points books of, listen, I'm your teacher and I have to teach you this thing. But, right, we all know that God did it. So I remember losing interest in science in like maybe 7th or 8th grade, when it really became less about the exploration, the process, how do we find these things out, and more about draw and label the parts of a cell.
Yes.
Be prepared to regurgitate this information back to me on a test.
Yeah.
And that's when I lost that awe and wonder, and now like as an adult I'm getting it again and I'm like, God, think of what I missed. Like, damn it.
Right. I'm right there with you. That's all I could say. I am the same thing. I was sort of excited about it. I remember evolution exciting me when I was very little, the little that I knew of it. And then we're all excited about space when we're kids, right?
Oh yeah.
And then 7th and 8th grade and labeling that damn cell. Parts of it were kind of cool, but I think there's often a mistaken perception that when for children we have to sweeten it up, but it's not really sweet. And when we get older, we learn the hard, real stuff. But I want people to know that that's the real stuff is the exciting stuff. I mean, you could keep it. We could still label the parts of a cell, but there should be, where did, the little chloroplast in every plant cell was actually the first or second living thing that caused the first great extinction, killing most of the creatures on Earth. But, I'm talking about bacteria and cyanobacteria. And it's because of that there's oxygen in the air that we breathe, like tie it into our lives and the big questions of why we are here and how we relate to the world around us. So yeah, we lose that bigger picture, we lose the forest for the trees. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, for sure. Have you had, I would imagine maybe some of the more interesting feedback that comes out of writing children's books comes from kids. Have you had any fun, interesting feedback from kids?
So that's funny. I'm trying to think on the spot here, but so the first book, so one of the ways I try to really cement it into kids' minds that this is real and tangible, I relate it to parts of our body, like our tailbone. So one of the pages in the first book talks about the crease under our nose. And the way that we get that is because even today, human embryos start to form like a fish because we evolved from fish. So that's still happening. And then later in the human development of the embryo or the fetus, later, pretty much at the last second, I don't know if it's 3 months before or whatever, our eyes are on the sides like fish and we're starting to grow gills. And pretty much at the last minute, the eyes kind of come together in the front and our face sort of squishes together. And that's one of the main reasons why we have a little ridge under our nose and a little extra skin here on the brow. And some dad emailed me, said his kid was like running around school pointing here and like explaining where that comes from.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
That was kind of fun. Yeah.
That's cool.
So
again,
yeah,
like
yeah.
You get kids that just, oh man, just sponges, soak up this knowledge and then want to go talk about it. That's so cool.
Yeah. It's funny because there's actually coincidentally, there's kind of a Jewish myth about a Jewish story about why we have the spot. Do you know it, or have you
never heard that? No.
So there's a common story. I mean, I think I don't know how much it's. People tell it as if like we don't really know if it's true. Even the most religious people would be like, I don't know, but it's kind of a saying that like when we're in the belly, we are taught, an angel comes and teaches us the whole Bible and we know everything. And then they have like a magic touch. They touch us here and we forget it all. And that shows we have the potential to learn it, whatever. But that's why we have the spot there. It's so funny. So when I learned it through evolution about why we really do, I'm like, that's the story.
Yeah. I can't tell you like the number of things that I have learned just in the past 4 to 6 years that are things that we've learned through evolution, right? There's I don't think I have it with me now, but there's there was a great book about it's called Predisposed, and it talks about how we are predisposed to be one way or the other, sort of more conservative or more liberal. And how that stuff is traced back through evolutionary biology. And it's just incredible. Like to be able to go, okay, I understand my dad a little better now, right? Like, yes, there are societal pressures and environmental things that cause changes also, right? But there is something sort of deep-seated in us all that makes us lean a little bit one way or that stuff is cool to know. And helpful when we're trying to like live in a world where we have to live in a world together and find ourselves so different on various things.
Absolutely. I think one book that does that well is Jonathan Haidt's. I know it's very popular. Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind. I don't know and there are other books I haven't read yet about moral philosophy and, forget conservative liberal, but, just our moral inclinations, how we have this deep-seated sense of what we feels right or wrong and what feels morally right and morally wrong, and then we codify those moral codes through time in different religious texts. But anyway, evolutionary psychology, nothing is more interesting and fascinating than that to me.
Yeah, I agree. It makes me wish that I had done better in school and actually succeeded in college and like learned this stuff back then.
Yeah,
it would have been great.
That's the thing, though. Are they even teaching it? I don't even know.
That's a good question.
I know there are biology courses that probably touch upon evolution a little bit, but I don't know if there's any courses in evolution, let alone evolutionary psychology. There should be, but yeah.
Okay, so let's one more time talk about the new book, Oh My Gods, A History of Belief. That is a Kickstarter campaign that just launched. What's the process like doing a book as a Kickstarter? And then how can people get involved in these early stages?
Sure. So what we love to do at the Annabelle Aiden series is we actually invite people to pre-order, not only to pre-order the book on Kickstarter, but they really become a part of it, literally, because we offer them the opportunity to send us a picture of their face, which we will print in the book as one of the characters.
Oh, cool.
So we're kind of like, you kind of asked me what the process is. We're still making the book and we want people to be a part of it. So people could purchase, could help support us and purchase spots in the book for their faces. We want all of our readers in there. Unfortunately, we only have a certain amount of, the printing press gave us a certain amount of inches to put there. So we do have limited spaces and they go quick, but people should definitely check that out. People could put their name in the book. Most of the book is completely written. It's been edited about 150 times. Really, like, it's insane. You sit on it for a week and then you reread it, and like that could be tweaked. And that, I mean, it's gone through so many edits. And then a week ago, I hired an editor who's looking at it again professionally, and we're really getting this right because it's rhyme and meter, and I'm very precise in exactly the information I want to give over. Very interesting look at world religions in a way that I don't see any other children's book do. And it's being illustrated right now. We have a new illustrator named Marissa from Connecticut who's incredible. I mean, you could see on the Kickstarter, her work blows my mind. And that's it. People could pre-order it now. For those who don't know how Kickstarter works, you pre-order the book. You could pay a little extra, put your face or your kid's face in the book, or your worst enemy's face in the book, and send them a copy. You could get a classroom pack. We have backpacks and merch. I think I'm wearing the t-shirt right now. Look at that.
There you go. Nice.
Hopefully the book will be done in, hopefully we'll have it on your doorstep in August or September, the latest. That's it.
That's awesome. So,
yeah.
So hang on, let me Google image search Ken Ham real quick, and I'll send you a picture of Ken Ham with my.
That's actually hilarious. Wow. I could totally do that. Interesting.
And then
I'm also a copyright lawyer and trademark lawyer, so I'm wondering about the rights
using
of
his image with
public figures.
Right.
I might have to look up some laws, but I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah. All right, cool. So we want everybody to go over to Kickstarter and look up "Oh My God's A History of Belief," right? Is there an easy way to get to that, or just to search it?
AnnabelleAiden.com.
Perfect.
Then follow the prompt. A pop-up window will come up, sending you right to the campaign. So Annabelle and Aiden spelled like that. Is that backwards? Are people going to see this backwards?
You're good. And I'll put the links in the show notes also.
Okay.
So folks can get to it real easy. And I assume then too folks can get a copy of the existing books that are already out there at AnnabelleandAiden.com also.
Yes. And there's actually a Kickstarter reward for all 7 books all together at a discounted rate, personally signed by myself, the author. So yes.
Cool. Awesome. Well, JR, thank you so much for spending a little time chatting today and being part of something that helps open the minds of kids in when so much of society is hell-bent on keeping them closed. I appreciate that very much as a parent. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah, for having me, and honestly for everything that you do. I mean, we have to support each other. Everyone listening, just supporting these institutions and supporting everything we're doing. Thank you. It's great to be here. This was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. And chat in anytime. We'll have you back on anytime you like.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Take care.
Thanks. You too. All right. Wow. What a great interview. Definitely go to the Kickstarter, go to AnnabelleandAiden.com and check out those books. Just absolutely freaking awesome. Now we're going to bring on Devon Graham to talk about how the Florida legislative session is going, I think, is one of our topics of discussion for tonight.
Hi.
And hi, Devon. How are you?
I'm so happy to be here.
Okay. The other thing I'm going to do we're gonna test. We're gonna play test the phones again. I'm gonna put up the phones. If you want to call in and chat, first the rules. Okay. I don't
Make
care.
it explicit.
Listen, I don't care that you believe or why. This is not that kind of show. This is not a call in and convince me to believe in your God. This is not call in with the Kalam cosmological argument. I don't care. We're going to talk about some topical things. And if you have comments about those topics, you are welcome to give us a call and chat about those things. So I'm going to put the phone lines open if you want to call. It's 253-900-2272. That's 253-900-2272. Devon, how the hell are you?
Oh my God, I'm so great. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Oh, the first week of the Florida session is over.
Yeah, and how's the not drinking going?
Well, I started
considering
February was Sobruary for me. I only drank 2 days last month. They were worked into the schedule. But March 1st, I'm back off the wagon, and it was in perfect timing because session started on March 2nd, this past Tuesday, and it's going great. It's going great. I got my wine and I got Girl Scout cookies here to get me through the night.
Girl Scout cookies. There you go. Big supporter of the Girl Scouts.
You gotta love them. I got
Awesome.
one in the house, so I have to buy all of them.
Yeah.
So
we actually went out of the house today, if you can believe that. We I know. We went to a nearby farm. Their big thing is blueberries, but that's not the season right now. It's coming. It's close, right around the corner.
Strawberry season.
But it's strawberry season, so we went
strawberry
strawberry picking.
In
And they also have sunflowers. You pick your own sunflowers too. So we masked up and took the kids, and that's a big deal. We took the kids out of school. We skipped school. Sorry. But hey, there's logic to this because if ever there's a time to go where there's not a whole lot of people, right? It's like get there first thing when they open, and they're on a weekday. So it was really good. There wasn't very many people there. Their COVID procedures were very good. That made me feel good about it.
That's good.
Where a lot of places don't. So we had a good time, and we were celebrating Becca's birthday. So
happy birthday, Becca!
She has a couple days left before she officially ticks the number up one, but we had a good time. It was fun. Anyway,
good times. Good times.
So you've been playing with the legislature.
I have been. It's so much fun.
What's new? What's going on? What's different?
It's not going well. It's not going well. So for everyone that's, I don't know, lives under a rock, I guess, where we had a bit of a blue wave nationally in a lot of states, Florida had a red wave. We lost a lot of progressives in the House and the Senate, and they were replaced by some very right-winger, like hardcore right-wing people. And so we have a ton of bad bills. So our session just started on March 2nd, which is Tuesday, and filing was allowed, I guess the Senate filing deadline was last Friday. House filing deadline was on March 2nd. And so we're actually just beginning to see some of the bills that were filed and are just being released. And wow, there's a lot. There's so much. There's seriously so much. It's
I should probably interrupt a moment to and one of these days maybe I will get over the need to feel like I need to say this all the time. But our program is associated with multiple 501c3 organizations. Our opinions are our own. But there is a reality to the fact that 9 times out of 10, when there is a legislative effort that is against church-state separation, humanist values, etc., it comes from one side more than the other.
Absolutely.
But we're also equal opportunity offenders. We gave Kimberly Daniels, who was a where was she? Gainesville Democrat? Jacksonville Democrat. We gave her plenty of shit too because she was up there filing all kinds of.
She sure was.
Putting God in schools stuff. So
She sure was.
just feel like I need to put that disclaimer out there every once in a while.
That's probably, excuse me, that's probably a very good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been, to be quite frank, a bit of a shit show. So the crazy thing about the Florida Legislature is that there's a bunch of committee weeks prior to session starting, and so where everyone seems to think that on March 2nd that's when everything is happening, but before that there's about 5 weeks of committees where they have votes and they go through bills, and bills are being filed and they're being voted on and moved up through the process. So there's some bills that are being voted on day one that have already been through 2 committees and are ready to go to the floor already. So it's a little bit, I don't know. I say like first day of session is it's a misnomer, I guess, because I feel like we're halfway through already, and it's
but take a step back there though, and maybe reinforce the process there. Like,
okay,
the bills go through committee. How many committees do they pass? Who decides? Like, all of that stuff.
Okay, so right now we have Republicans head both the majority leaders in both the House and the Senate, so they get to decide what committees bills go to. So legislators file a bill, it goes to leadership, so the Republican side in this case, and they will decide how many what committees this bill is going to go through, and it has to go through at least usually 3 committees before it can be voted on in the full chambers.
You're right.
However, if they don't like you, they don't like the bill, or there's issues, and maybe, I don't know. I was going to say it's too controversial, but that doesn't seem to be a problem this year. They may not send it to a committee at all. They may not assign it committee spots. They can give you up to 7 committees to go through before you get to the chambers. Okay. That's happened before, and we've seen one bill so far. I believe it's one of the anti-abortion ones that is only going through 2. So there's that indicates.
Oh, and we lost Devon. She'll be back. I need to get some fun hold music to play while you're missing.
Am I back?
You're back.
I got so scared. Okay. Okay. So I don't know where I was at, but when they have a bill that they assign just 2 committees, it means they really want to push it through, and they did that with an anti-abortion bill this past week, actually. So
I just want to talk briefly about just how damn frustrating a lot of this is. And I know I've mentioned some of this before. Like, again, the ability for like your average citizen to go be involved in the process of legislation is impossible.
It's not easy.
And I get like, okay, we've elected these representatives and they're supposed to be off doing our will, and so we shouldn't have to be involved. And yet we do. I understand very much now, having just watched your life over the past few weeks. I understand why lobbyists exist. I understand why lobbyist organizations exist. I understand why people do this shit for a living. I get it now. I get it.
I do too.
Like, you can't, I don't know how you're like still doing the job and the parent and all of the other things that you have to do.
I'm not.
And then show up at
I'm just not. That's how that's working.
And then show up at the state house and be like, "Hi, I'm here to tell you your bill is garbage." Like,
yeah, no, it's
a lot.
Up until a year ago, I thought the lobbyist issue, like lobbyists in general, were just dumb. Like, why do they exist? And I 1000% get it. I know, and I know that system is abused at times, and I can see that, but they are necessary.
Yeah.
Because the Florida legislature is purposely constructed in a way that it's not easy to navigate. Like, I think you sent me a question today, and I'm like, I don't know, and so I sent it to like a friend of mine, a lobbyist, and he's like, I don't know either. So it's every day is like an education, and so and especially during COVID times, like normally the Capitol is very open. You just walk in, you can go wherever you want. And now it's locked down. So for the House side, you have to have an appointment to go into the Capitol, and they give you a ticket to go into the room to testify. You can normally just go in and like wave in opposition or wave in support. So instead of going up and actually talking, you can just say, I disagree with this, or I agree with this, or I support this.
But talking is so much more fun.
It's so much more fun. It really is. But it's also exhausting.
Yeah.
But you can't do that anymore. Unless you're a lobbyist, they don't let your average citizen go in and wave or oppose. You can do that in the Senate, but at the same time, you don't have that face-to-face contact. So for the Senate this year, instead of being in the Capitol, the public has to go down to the Tucker Civic Center, which is like the FSU's basketball gym. It's about half a mile away from the Capitol itself, and so you're being like live streamed in, and there's a delay, and you don't see reactions of the senators while you're talking, and it's really I don't know how to describe it, but it feels ineffectual, I guess.
Yeah.
But you can go in and wave in support or opposition there, but it also at the same time you're doing it half a mile away via Zoom.
Right. The other piece of this that I struggle with is, well, a couple of things. So Jeannie in the chat says more than a couple. Jeannie in the chat says, I appreciate elected officials who remember that they represent all of their constituents, not just the ones who get them elected. Those are few and far between, but they exist. They definitely do exist. The another thing is, our session is 60 days, 90 days?
60 days.
60 days. That is batshit crazy, Devon.
That
we do so much in those. Now there's committees before that, yes, but like the actual session of making the law is only 60 days. And so what tends to happen is what's happening right now. And and one of the big reasons why you're like just burnt the fuck out. So
and I am.
I know you are. So that's why when you were like, do you want me to do the show tonight? I was like, do you want to do the show tonight?
I'm drinking now, I'm fine.
Is that yeah, me too. 60 days. And so what happens is this flood of legislation just washes out. And like, and I know a lot of this is intentional in certain directions. Then we're left playing whack-a-mole. Like we literally just running around going, okay, we're focused. Like we've been working on this moment of silence thing. And there are other bills that are important that deserve our time, that other organizations are. But there's only so much of us, and there's only 60 fucking days, right? So
exactly,
we got to pick something and work on it. So we do that, and then like then today we got one flagged that they're the one where they're trying to make it so that any group, any team, I don't know exactly how it reads, but that you can get a certain number of minutes of time on the PA on the loudspeaker before high school football games. And like the idea there is obviously for, let the Christian, because there was recently a lawsuit where a Christian school was denied that ability to do, and it was upheld, rightfully so. And so now we're trying to legislate. So then this one pops up. It's like chasing weeds around your yard.
It really is. And like for the moment of silence, like, so we should say that we are the co-chairs for the state legislative action team, or for the for American Atheists. So we have a team of volunteers from around the state, and this is our first year doing this. It's a pilot program, and we're just trying to learn the process and teach others the process and get people more involved in legislative advocacy. And I think we're doing pretty well, but like our first kind of act was to for the moment of silence in the House, which the first House committee, which was like a week and a half ago maybe, and we had 3 days. Like we found out like on Thursday, and I think we had the meeting like that night. We're like, call your congressman, and it was rushed, like because the committee meeting was Monday morning or something like that. So or Tuesday morning. We did not have much time.
Right. That's the other thing. It's not like this. I mean, this stuff is literally coming in by the day. It's not like we have a calendar for next month that we know, okay, on April the 6th, this is what we're going to do. That doesn't exist. This is like, okay, and tomorrow, this is what's happening.
And then I just testified yesterday for the second House committee meeting on the moment of silence. I found out the day before, like actually the night before. I was winding down, I was getting ready for bed, and I'm like, I haven't gotten the bill tracker. The bill tracker doesn't seem like it's, there's enough in it. And so I looked, it's like,
especially with like the dates and the,
and they had just like assigned it to the committee the next morning. I'm like, God damn it. And so
and again, let me go back again. Like we're talking this, how anti-lobbyist we had been in the past. Like I understand the need for it now, because who can be like, hey boss, I got to call in for work tomorrow so that I can go to the Capitol. And if you live in the Keys, so that I can fly to the Capitol, like what?
There's no
what?
way.
Oh,
There's
it's
no
insane.
way. Yeah, I'm very fortunate to have a job where I can like just kind of run up to the Capitol and I can easily take time off from it, and it's fairly flexible. But I mean, there's going to be times that I'm not going to be able to, and we're just going to have to let those bills go through.
Yes.
So
because I think like, and we've talked about this as a team, like I would gladly go up and testify if I know when to be there, and it's not like I find out in a half an hour, oh, it's tomorrow morning. Like that just doesn't work.
Yeah, I think I made a comment a few weeks ago. I'm like, yeah, Florida's pretty good because they give you enough, like a few days warning before the committee meetings. And it's like, not this year. Like, nope, they are not doing that this year. So it's really fast.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So let's talk about the moment of silence bill and where that is now. I have some clips. I have some clips that we can play. And I think I don't know. I think we may just play all three of them. We didn't really discuss this ahead of time.
Okay, this is very last minute, guys. I apologize.
We're doing the show like we do legislation.
When Devon's on, it's last minute.
Oh boy. Okay, so we're going to talk about or the clips that we're going to play at least are the moment of silence bill that are in the Florida House. It's moving through the committees in the Florida House. Do you want to frame out any broader of sort of where the bill stands?
You bet I do.
In committees and such.
So like the Senate one is just past the first committee, and it has two more to go to. I just checked this morning. It hasn't been agendaed yet for the second committee, but for the House one, the first House committee was a week and a half ago, maybe. I don't think it was even that. Yeah, it was about a week and a half ago, and I testified against that one, and it did not turn out as well as the rep was expecting it to. It's sponsored by Representative Randy Fine, who's out of Brevard County. And I think he was expecting this to just kind of fly through. And then the angry atheist showed up and started talking. And there was I believe like Hemant Mehta picked up on it, and it was in the Florida Politics website. He brought up Parkland, like moments of silence could have prevented a Parkland incident. Sorry, I'm being invaded by a kid here. So a moment of silence could have prevented Parkland. He said this in front of the former mayor of Parkland, who is the current representative from that area. It didn't go well.
And bless her for just calling him out.
She was graceful as all get out.
Was so good.
She was so good. But yeah, it didn't go as smoothly as he thought. I mean, but it's a Republican majority, so it's going to pass. It's not. It's kind of a losing battle, but I'm still going to fight it.
Oh, sure.
So that meeting did not go well. Let's say it that way. He insinuated that I was Islamophobic, which I didn't say anything about any specific religion. I didn't say any anti-theistic things. It was bizarre. So this second one, which happened yesterday, Thursday, March 4th, it was the second round, and he kept his intro very succinct, and I think the other side, the opposition, was prepared to support him more so
Right.
this time.
Well, there were some comments in that first one of reps who were like, I was prepared to vote for this when I walked in the door today. There were some calls that I received that,
Yes.
made me think, think about it again and ask a little more questions, which is great.
Yeah, and I cannot, like, if I've learned anything this session, is that it actually does matter when you call a rep and make a stink about something, like, because it actually did help in that first committee meeting, but we did not have time to do anything for the second.
I called the chair of that committee, who is from around here, from around these parts. And then I sent emails to the others. But you do what you can when you got 12 hours notice or whatever. Again.
Yeah. So I wasn't expecting too much from this committee. But what's interesting about this one is we have the very first first Islamic representative elected official in Florida was on this committee, and so I thought it was going to be interesting how this was going to go down. We didn't know much about him. He's brand new. We know he's fairly left leaning, but we know virtually nothing. So I just went in and kind of did my spiel and was hoping that the non-opposition side would help out, and they did to some extent. They did ask very good questions and made some very good points. In the end, it didn't.
It didn't make a difference. It passed. Right. X to 1. I don't know how many total people there are on the committee, but he was the only one that voted in opposition.
Yeah, you got to get that spoiler out. We had one. He was
so let's do this. Probably at your opposition, I'm going to play your remarks from this meeting yesterday.
I hate the sound of my voice, but go ahead.
I know. Have another drink, Dev.
Okay,
and then I want to discuss, and then we'll play Rep Benjamin's response, and we can discuss, and then I do want to play Rep Fine's closeout, and then I want to talk about sort of like we talked about earlier offline, like sort of where we are, and how do you move on this now, and what the questions should be, and that sort of thing. Now, so I'm going to play your remarks. It's 3 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm also going to try to pee during this time, so we'll see how successful that is.
Go quick!
If I am unsuccessful, you will come back and you will be running the show. Good luck.
It'll be fun.
All right.
Go for it.
Here we go.
Devon Graham. Oh, American Atheists.
Thank you.
You're recognized.
Thank you. Let's go on a road trip, shall we? Just a few miles north of here is the state of Georgia, where a mandatory moment of silence is in place. Their current law is very similar to what we see in HB 529. It's generic, there's no mention of religion, and in fact, it states that it must be non-sectarian. Yet there's a reason why laws like this don't sit right with some of us, and here's why. Last month, a Georgia lawmaker filed a bill to amend this law to include an explicitly Christian prayer that prays for the students and staff to protect them from evil, and ends with, "We are asking these blessings through Jesus Christ our Lord, amen." The current Florida statute allows for any school district in the state of Florida to authorize a moment of silence. While the Supreme Court has been very clear it has come out against coerced prayer, the law of the land still maintains that an individual student may pray or have a moment of silence as long as it's not disruptive and doesn't infringe upon the rights of others. As you can see with the Georgia bill and with others like this that have been introduced in other state houses, HB 529 is nothing but a foot in the door and a way to advance coerced prayer into our schools. 1/4 of all Floridians are non-religious, and when you include minority religions with that group, that's almost 1/3 of all Floridians. Now let's assume that adults do what adults do and they have kids. That's a significant number of kids in our public schools that think differently than the majority of their classmates. And when you're one of the quote unquote different kids, you're more likely to be bullied. This is something we've seen in our court systems many times over when a student does not want to participate in a moment of silence and instead is harassed by their peers and bullied to the extent that they have to leave the school and or sue. So I appreciate the sponsors' concerns with the well-being of our children. As a mother myself, my children are my #1 priority, and there's no close second. But there's nothing more heartbreaking than seeing your kid being bullied for being different. And this bill is setting up our kids for exactly that. So, it's been stated before that a dozen or so states currently mandate a moment of silence, but of those states, 5 are in the bottom 10 for the most violent states, and all but a few are in the bottom half for the most violent states. Where are the data that say that this is doing any good whatsoever? And what is the problem we are trying to solve? You as lawmakers may participate in a moment of silence when you enter the chambers. And you may also have the opportunity to opt out of that, which is a dispensation that we are not giving our kids. If your child or mine want to participate in a prayer moment of silence, they're already allowed to do so. There is no reason to other our kids for doing what they believe. And if they do participate, it should be because they want to and not because they're forced to. Thank you.
So it's really difficult to sort of figure out which direction to go and what things to, hit on for when you go into these conversations. And then you're carrying with you, like, this is how it's a conversation. We're not talking to each other, but it's a conversation.
Yeah.
I came to the last meeting and I said these things, and then you closed out the bill and attacked me by saying these things. And now we're doing this in a different committee. And so you and Rep. Fine are the overlap, right? And the other people that come to speak and testify too. They're generally the same people. But so you've made your points to one committee, but the other committee hasn't necessarily heard those points. And is that working? And you have to kind of tweak it each time. And just
there. So what's the process in figuring out what to say?
Yeah.
Number one, I don't like to say the same things every time. It's just, I like to spice it up.
Which is interesting because Rep. Fine has no problem saying the exact same spiel every time. Devon, there's only one way to eat an elephant, and that's one bite at a time.
You know what it is? It's one bite at a time.
One bite at a time. And all this bill does, he makes the same presentation every single time.
Every single time.
Because it's a different audience, I guess, right? It's a different committee, it's a different group of people. But as a viewer, that runs stale on me. As somebody watching from the outside.
Yeah. So my first instinct after the first committee meeting was to get super defensive and be like, well, no, I don't hate Islamic people, and I don't.
Right.
But it's it's water off a duck's back or whatever that phrase is. I can't.
Something about ducks.
It's something animal related. I'm gonna throw an animal quote in there somehow.
Right.
But yeah, my first instinct is to go after them, but at the same time, I need to go after the points. And so the first committee, I really focused on the bullying aspect. I went after this, you're othering our children, and I went into more of the details of the court cases that where children don't participate in moments of silence or optional Bible classes, and they get bullied or told they're going to burn in hell for the rest of their lives or the rest of eternity or whatever.
Right.
And I don't know. I felt like I had to come back with something this time, and I think I took the approach of the advancement of prayer, because the Georgia bill is fairly recent and it's been getting a lot of press lately.
Yep.
And their current statute, what they have in law right now, is almost exactly what Fine and Baxley in the Senate are promoting for Florida. It specifically says this has to be non-sectarian. It's not a prayer. It's there's no religious overtones whatsoever. And then you have, she's actually a Democrat, Georgia lawmaker,
Right.
saying, and like the prayer is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like it's explicitly Christian.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And so I think I went for that tact, but I don't know.
There have been a lot of good questions. A lot of
Mhm.
committee members have come back, I think, with the good questions.
Really good questions.
Which we'll get to some at the end, I think, here, which is, what is the problem? And this is, you should approach every piece of legislation like this. What is the problem we're seeking to address? How do we know that this addresses it?
Yeah, and
Right.
and that's something that was in the first committee. They're like, "What are we trying to do here? Like, if
Yeah.
what's the point?" And have you talked to local school districts about this? And that's when Fine said that I don't care what local politicians
Right.
think, which kind of really pissed off a few reps in that committee. But I mean, some of the questions that came up in the first one were like, "This is going to." How do you deal with kids who are, have ADHD or cannot sit down for 2 minutes quietly? What's the punishment? How is this going to be run? There's no guidelines. They can't opt out. This is going to probably, Black and brown kids are probably going to be targeted more for, not listening or, not praying correctly or something. There was a lot of that. And so I was expecting some of that too, but like even in this committee, they brought up points that I didn't think of, like the vouchers. Like I didn't.
Yes. Oh, that was a great one.
That was a really good one.
If you're going to apply this to all public schools, are you applying this to private schools too? No. Well, private schools get tax voucher money. That they're getting taxpayer funding just like the public schools are. Why aren't they being treated the same? Well,
exactly.
and that one particular rep, it either misspoke or got her facts wrong because it was said that she believed that they are held to the same standard. And I'm here to tell you, honey, they are held to very different standards all across the board.
There's bills going through to make them go to the same standards as public schools, and those aren't getting attended.
No, that'll never.
Those aren't going anywhere.
No. So I want to play Rep Benjamin's.
Love him.
This was in debate, I think, and
probably
So this is why I want to. How I want to frame this is, I often preach like we have to stop being assholes and work together with people who are different than us.
Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people, I understand, look, religion on the whole is bad, and it would be great if it just disappeared tomorrow. I get it. I agree. It's not going to happen. So in the meantime, like, there are people out there who are allies or would be if we weren't such pricks. So my goal as an organizer, as being part of a team like we are, is to reach out to people who may be friendly, but aren't the angry atheist, that are, and the minority religious is an obvious place to go, because oftentimes when atheists and secular people are being disenfranchised in one way or another, so too are the Muslim and the Sikh and the Hindu and so forth.
Exactly. Yeah, there aren't enough atheist and secular people out to actually make a huge difference. Like, let's be honest. There's a lot of us, but we're not out enough, and we're not cohesive enough to do much. And so we have to ally with other groups. And I'm still like newbie atheist phase. Like, I'm still in my angry atheist phase. So my first reaction, like when someone says I'm Christian, like, no, we're not doing that. Like, but then it's like, no, these people are freaking allies, and I love them as human beings, and I'm going to work with them, and I'm going to, so I think, being ecumenical about it is the only way to go. And I think Rep Benjamin is an awesome example of someone who can work with us.
I agree. Absolutely. And when you hear him, I don't want to give away the feeling, but when you hear him say the separation of church and state, it's just like, boo, okay, this guy gets it. This guy gets it. Here, let's watch.
gets
This
it.
is so good.
Representative Benjamin, you're recognized.
I'm a person of faith, and so I believe in prayer. In my faith, I'm called to pray at least 5 times a day. But I also believe in the separation of church and state. And I'm also a realist. And I know what those kids are going to do in that 1 to 2 minutes. They're not going to reflect on the world. They're not going to reflect on any ethical obligations. They're not going to reflect on how they're going to score in their day-to-day interactions with each other. They're going to wish that they didn't have to do it, and they're going to wish this 1 minute was up. This bill seeks to solve nothing. It already exists within our law that a school district has the option of including a moment of silence. And as you heard from Representative Robinson, school districts like Miami-Dade already incorporate that into their policies and procedures. And if it was as the good rabbi believed it was, we probably would have less suspensions before bad behavior, less fights, a lot of bad things that we see happen in our schools, but yet those things still persist. I'm a realist. This bill will change nothing. And oftentimes, bills like this is as the friend or the proponent of atheism said it is, that has occurred in other states. It becomes the gateway for something else. A road that we don't want to go down. If I wanted to pray, as my faith recalls, the school would have to make an accommodation for me. It's my religious right, just as any other person's religious right would be to stop whatever they're doing at whatever time of the day and ask the school to allow them a place to make prayer. We do not need a moment of silence mandated upon the school board. And so I will be down on this bill.
I am such a Rep. Benjamin fangirl. I'm not gonna
Yes.
lie. Like, so
So good.
good. So good.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Let's go through some of those points. Kids aren't going to reflect on shit for 2 minutes. You're absolutely right. And Fine,
What does that do?
we're going to hear in a moment. Rep Fine fights back hard on that about how do you don't, trust our kids to whatever.
Don't
I
you
have a
trust our kids
10-year-old.
enough?
Let me tell you what my 10-year-old is going to do for 2 minutes. It looks something like this.
There's a finger up a nose somewhere.
Somewhere.
Or down a pants. I don't know.
Yes,
wherever.
yeah, something.
There's
Hands are where
something
they
else
should
going
not
on
be.
that's not reflected on something that they should be.
So I did a show earlier today. I'll tell you about it at the end. But we were talking about this of like this 2 minutes of first of all, teachers got enough going on. The day is packed enough that we don't need to waste 2 more minutes on some other dumb shit. And let's get rid of the Pledge of Allegiance while we're in the process of cleaning up the morning too.
Thank you.
We don't need that jingoistic North Korea, China stuff. Like that just feels weird to me. I don't like it.
Creepy.
But anyway, and my kid's gonna be the one to end up in the papers because he refuses to do the Pledge of Allegiance and this happened in the past year or two at one of our county schools here. Kid refused to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Teacher didn't know that amendments to the Constitution exist or something. Pushed back.
Or that the Constitution existed at all.
Or that the Constitution exists, right? Pushed back. No, you have to do it. And back and forth, back and forth. Kid was arrested. It was a whole big thing. But yeah, that'll be my kid because we've explained to him his rights and he knows them. Yeah. But yeah, come on, man. Be a realist. like Benjamin. Because your kids are definitely not going to do that. The other point is it is already optional and some schools are doing it. Great. Yeah,
Fine.
let them do it.
We had those moments of silence, and I did not pray. I was a
No.
Christian and I did not pray.
No.
I did not meditate. I did not center myself.
Yeah.
Or whatever they're saying we do.
Yeah, the people that I talked, the show that I did earlier today, when we talked about this, one of them said that their school had, when they were a kid, had this moment of silence thing, and that kids were screwing around, and like the one Christian kid that, like me as a 7th grader, I would have been there poring over my Bible, that would have been me. And then all the other kids are just like, goofing off and making, stupid remarks at each other or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's all, you missed a lot. You can go back and watch this on the Florida channel. It's the Florida channel, floridachannel.com.
Yep.
You can go back and watch all of these if you'd like. It's pretty entertaining, but we've just picked out the highlights.
They are a good time.
Yeah.
There are some good ones.
So we'll wrap it up here with Representative Fine's closeout. And he's going to touch on some things that we probably haven't talked about yet, but I will make notes and we will come back to them.
Representative Fine, you're recognized to close on your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will be brief because I know that you have a lengthy agenda. I think it's a sad day, to be honest, when the idea of a moment of silence, a time for silent reflection, is of questionable morality, a time to simply reflect on the world. I think it's even sadder when some define realism that they think so little of our children that they couldn't actually leverage this time. I have a 9-year-old son who doesn't have a 1 or a 2-minute moment of silence. For him, he has a 35-minute moment of silence every day that he goes to chapel for a service of a religion that he is not part of. And he uses 35 minutes, and there are many students of many faiths who do the same.
I'm going to pause this for a second because I have to. I can't just let
my
it.
wine glass. We're ready.
Oh God, I can't just let it go by. And hopefully it'll remember our position and we won't have to listen to that all over again. Representative Fine, sir, I know you're watching. I know you're a fan.
Big fan.
Please, I implore you, if your child is being forced to being subjugated to 35 minutes of Christian torture, you should be on our side.
Why do you not agree with me?
You should be against that. Your child should not be subjected to that if that's not his religion. That's the whole freaking point.
And and I don't like to talk about people's kids.
No, of course.
He goes personal. Like he's gone personal on every single one of these, and I will not talk about his kids or badmouth his kids because they are kids and they should remain kids. And
of course,
but like honestly, like the things that he says like this, including the fact that he gets prayed in the last committee, he gets prayed to every day with a Christian prayer in session.
Right. You should be against that too, sir.
Why aren't you fighting that? Like why are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so this is either going to start from the beginning, and I'm sorry, or it will pick up where it left off.
Not a realist. I reject the idea that we think so little of our children that they could not use this time effectively. I'm an optimist. Now, I want to talk about...
I'm a parent, sir.
Excuse me.
That's not a pessimist. That's not a realist. That's not an optimist. I'm a parent. I have a kid. I'm telling you right now. They're not going to do that. No,
they
don't care. They don't care.
And that's the thing. He picks up on words. Like he picked up on the realist comment from Benjamin. He picked up on the gateway comment that I made before. It's just
intellectually dishonest arguments. You will see me do this on the floor. It is intellectually dishonest to say that I oppose mandates, except when they're done by my local school board. See, in Miami-Dade County, the students are mandated to do a moment of silence. They're just mandated to do it by the local school board. So either mandates are good or mandates are not.
Mandates are not. I don't want the school board enforcing it either.
I think people would be surprised that Miami-Dade mandates that, and I think a lot of people might fight against that. Yeah. What is happening?
Everyone who says mandates are okay in Miami-Dade shouldn't have an issue with us mandating it here unless their issue is some issue of home rule. But it should not be the idea of mandating a moment of silence. You know, one of the speakers who stood up here talked about this is a gateway. You know, there's a similar bill in Georgia. This would pass another bill's being offered. It's a silly argument. By the way, I wouldn't vote for the bill that I wouldn't, let alone sponsor it. I wouldn't vote for the bill based on what I heard mentioned here. But she talked about how there are different kinds of kids in schools. And what she's really saying is, look, not every child is Christian. That's what she's saying.
That's not what you were saying. No, not really.
I don't hate Christians. I used to be one.
Exactly.
My head was going to
Same.
explode. My head was going to explode. Okay.
I'm one. By the way, the other speaker who spoke in favor of the bill, the rabbi, is one. Our children are those. Yet here we are advocating for this kind of bill because we believe that every child deserves the ability to opt in to a moment of silence. See, if you aren't in a school district that does...
But if this is an ability, I'm sorry, I keep stopping it. If this is a child opting in to a moment of silence, that's
Then
not
it's
what
not
your
a
bill
mandate.
does,
It's
sir.
not. Then it's not your bill.
Right.
Your bill is mandating it. If they can opt in, that implies that there is an option.
Right.
And
this
there's
does
not an
not
option
provide
here.
an option.
I am so angry right now.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm always
Sorry
angry.
you have to relive it.
not do this. You do not have this choice today. You can opt out even once this is passed. Just think about what you're going to do for your homework. You can do whatever you want with the time. But as we have seen, we live in a time where it almost feels like the world is falling apart, and we should be doing everything that we can to make this world a little bit better for our kids. I will close with this story, and I tell lots of stories. Representative Fisher gives me a hard time about it. And I tell stories about my own family because that is why I do this job. I will leave here tomorrow, and I will go home to watch my oldest son have the most special day he will ever have in his religion. He will get bar mitzvahed. It will be tomorrow. It will start at 7 o'clock. I will not be here with you should we be in session. And for the first 6 years of his schooling, he went to a non-Jewish religious school where he had, as I mentioned before, 35-minute moments of silence for him every day. And this year, we decided to put him back in a public school because it's a great public school. It's the fourth best public school in the state, and we decided to put him there. And I can tell you that he has struggled moving from the private school that he went to the public school because he lost that opportunity.
Is that really why? Is that really why he's struggling? Because now he doesn't have time in the
35 minutes of
morning?
boredom.
Right. Right. So what I'm taking from this so far is because you're okay with your child being subjected to someone else's religion for 35 minutes, we should all be okay with 2 minutes of it? Is that
I believe he makes this point in a minute or two, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, great. Let's just get through this.
To have that moment of silence, to be centered. For 35 minutes, sitting through a service of a religion he is not a part of, to nothing, being slammed into the day without any time to think, without any time to reflect. I would argue to you that if this is good for a Jewish child who goes to an Episcopal school, then it can be good for every child, no matter what school that they go to. This is something that will help our children. Will it change the world? Will it solve all of our problems? No, it will not. But how do you eat an elephant? You do it one bite at a time. This is a bite that we can do today. And with that, I ask for your favorable support.
And then he gets it.
I cannot with that fucking elephant quote. I don't even know where to begin. Like, if you told me he was an evangelical minister, I would believe you. I would totally believe you.
Right.
He's got the pomposity and the swagger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your kids are being slammed into the day, Devon, with no time to think about whatever. Look, I remember being in school vaguely, and like you had homeroom, and homeroom was your chill, veg out, fuck around time. Like, I don't know if that's still a thing, but there's still, like, you don't just come right in and there's an equation sitting on your desk that you have to figure out in order to go to the next period. Like, come on.
Yeah. My son has to sit on a tennis court for 30 minutes until they let him into the building. And my daughter gets to walk around like for another 20 minutes before they're allowed in the classroom. So it's like
that's a good time to think about the, center yourself for the day.
That would actually be meditation and mindfulness that's what he's trying to get at. But
so that's that. Let's turn to that, because that was my response. You and I were talking earlier about like, okay, these are the arguments that have been made. This is the argument that we make back. Like, how do you go from here? What do you say? And my listening to those three pieces that we just listened to on the show, this is sort of what I came away with, and steal however much of this you want. Something to the effect of, when we see bills like this, the red flags go up, right? We saw this bill and went, boy, howdy, that's a chance to put prayer back in school, isn't it? And it's cloaked under this, like, we're taking the word prayer out of the old code. So it's really not about prayer. It's not about religion at all. Like, it's masked. We get these heebie-jeebies when these kind of bills come up, and and for good reason, because we've seen them before. I keep giving Kim the time of day, but she's no longer a representative. Thank you very much. But she filed a bill and that really wouldn't have put prayer back in schools, but then made a big ass banner that said, House Bill whatever, let's put prayer back in school. So we've seen the overt attempts to put prayer back in school. When we see stuff like this, red flags go up, right? Yep. Surely you can understand that, like, this is why we feel the way we do. Now, that said, if it's not, let me give you the benefit of the doubt. You're telling me it's not about prayer, it's not about religion. Okay, fine. As the good committee people have asked before me, what the hell is the point then? All we've gotten from you is, gee, isn't it tough on kids today, and they have lots of stresses and they're not whatever, like, so wouldn't it be great if they could center themselves? And I know I've said parts of this on the show before too, but it bears repeating, I think, because for me, you're not wrong in the prognosis. Like, yes, there's kids have struggles and stress and stuff, and we could be doing more to help them. You're absolutely right. We could be teaching them mindfulness meditation, like you just said. Like, teach them how to breathe properly. Yes. I haven't had a good breath in months because I carry my stress, and I know that I do, and I go to therapy, and I'm on medication for my anxiety and depression. And yet I can tell, like, there are days that I just go, I haven't taken a deep breath in a long time, have I? Yeah, we all got shit going on. Yes. But 2 minutes in the morning, undirected, no guidance as to what to do with it other than what your parents tell you to do with it, which is just sit there and wait till it's over. Like, that's what they're going to tell you.
Suck it up. Just suck it up.
That doesn't cut it. If you want to teach my kid to breathing exercises and meditation, I'm down for that. Let's do that. Why aren't we talking about that? And if the answer is, to me, that should warrant a, wow, you know what? That's a really good point. We could be doing more. Now, I know you're not going to go with me on my idea of, I don't know, funding education and mental health counselors and all of that stuff. That would be
ridiculous. Stop. This is Florida.
But if you really want to make an impact on the mental health of children, that's how you do it. Or if you're not willing to do that, then yeah, let's add mindfulness meditation into the health class or PE or whatever, so that they know how to center themselves. You're asking kids to take 2 minutes to center themselves, and you haven't taught them how to do it. Yeah. That's my problem. It all boils down to that. And if it's not about that, then it's about prayer. Then it's about sneaking prayer.
Yep. Yes. That is correct. A+ gold star.
Woo!
Thank you.
I haven't had a good rant in a while. That felt good.
You did it. You got to get it out. See, this is what you should be doing for your 2 minutes of mindful meditation every morning, or
right?
whatever we're calling
I
it.
feel better. I vented. I got it all out.
You got to get it out. But
I
that
do
wasn't
that over
silent. So
I do that over the course of a 2-hour show every week. That's how this is my therapy.
Oh my god. So yeah. What what do you say? Like,
Yeah.
although there was a little bit of a funny, like, once it was voted on, everyone,
Oh, this is good.
trickling out of the room. They called up. They were introducing another bill, and it was a representative came up to talk about it, and she goes, "Well, that's a really tough act to follow." It's like, yeah, I know. And she saw me, like, afterwards. I was sitting in, like, the bridge in the Capitol, and I was, like, checking my email or whatever. And she goes, "How you doing, honey?" And I go, "I'm living the dream, honey. I'm living the dream here. It's going really great." She's like, "Good for you." Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they don't expect that. They weren't expect the camera guy from Florida Channel actually left before the bill started because he's like, "This is really boring." And then
Oh wow.
and then they called up this bill. So
Awesome.
which is always a fun time. So yeah, tough act to follow.
Yeah, I think
Compliment of my life.
and I think we're doing this live on TV for a few purposes. Like, I think it's beneficial for people to see the process, like to go on us with this journey for a minute. And you're gonna get tired of hearing me talk about how difficult it is to engage in the process and be in contact with representatives and have your voice heard beyond the one guy that was elected that doesn't represent your values. Like, you're gonna get tired of hearing me say that. But we are going through this as like a team. We are learning a lot about the process and how it all works and where the pitfalls are, and it's just a lot.
Yeah. I love this stuff. Like, I am not a political person, and I am so addicted to it. Like, this is fun, and it's just fascinating. Like, the process is how a bill becomes a law is fascinating. And if there's anything that I've learned this whole thing is that people
I'm just a bill,
that
bill.
and also the people that we elect are really freaking stupid.
Yeah.
Most of them. Like, I marvel at how dumb some of them are and at how terrible they are at what they're doing. And it gives me like some sort of, like, some hope that literally anyone can do this job.
Yeah.
Anyone can do this job. And
Yeah.
we should be getting into that job. Like, we as atheists and we as secular people need to be engaged more and know what the hell is going on and running for stuff. And this is not the direction we wanted to go. I don't
No,
think,
you're good.
but-
No, that it makes a good point because in two different directions, I think, because I can play either side of this, right? Where the original idea of not the original idea was for white male landowners to come forth to represent the whatever, but like we talk about
still happening.
we talk about like we talk about George Washington in those like rosy glasses sort of and then at the end of his term they wanted him to be king and he said no, that's not what this is all about. Like, people are supposed to come from your representatives, your government is supposed to come from the people. You serve your time and then you go back to become the people again. And that evokes this idea of like Farmer John, from fucking Podunk Nowhere can go be in the government and make law and be part of the process.
Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
And there's some warm fuzzy that comes along with that, and maybe it's the jingoistic upbringing we were given, but education. But also on the other hand, you're writing laws that should like maybe require at the very least an interest in law. Like, I mean, some of these folks just couldn't read a legal brief to save their lives. I'm not suggesting that you should not have to be a lawyer to be a politician.
Right. No.
Right. I'm not suggesting that, but it would be helpful. Like, it's the same idea of like if I were going to go to France on vacation, I would probably try to learn some French before I go. If I'm going to go write laws, maybe I should, study up on law before I go.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you need to be on the bar. I'm not saying you need to but at least have some clue of what the hell you're doing.
Yeah, and this is like kind of going like in a total tangent, but I mean if you were to like run for office and do this, and you know what the people want, and you know what your goals are and whatnot, there are people there to help you. Like I assumed I learned this year because this is new to me. That there's a whole bill drafting office.
Yeah.
Like at the Capitol. Like you say, I want this bill, I want it to do X, Y, and Z. You kind of figure out what you want and you give it to them and they make it legal for you. They put it in all that like legalese and the bill speak. Like you don't have to know how to do that. And I think that's very intimidating for people. Like, oh,
I think so too.
I read this bill and it's so complex. I'm like, well, yeah, because someone
but that guy didn't write it. Yeah.
Yeah, that guy didn't. I know that guy. He did not write it. And I don't want to like bash politicians because there are some amazing ones and there are really good ones out there.
Right.
But there are also some that I can't believe that I have to breathe the same air as them because it's just.
Well, I the other thing that and maybe this is the difference between like writing law. You need to be a lawyer. You're right. This is. That's sort of the sound I think I was giving off. And what I really mean to say is that to be a politician, you need to be a politician. And there is a lot of like dissident feeling in the world right now about like, oh, politicians are bad. Like that it is a bad thing to be a politician.
There's also the extreme where we had Trump, but I mean, let's
right. If you're going to hire somebody to do the job, don't you hire someone who knows how to do the job? Don't you hire the expert?
Yeah.
And
or someone who's willing to surround themselves with experts.
With the experts, right?
Yeah.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So So I think I listened to one of the first testimonies I gave last year. And
yeah. How did that feel?
It was so freaking awkward because like now like I was pissing my pants, terrified. Like I was so scared, and then like this time I'm like, I found out the night before this is going up, and I'm like, oh, god damn it. And I'm not saying I'm really good at this, but I think I'm to the point that it's just like,
oh, we lost you. I think you're at the point where it's just like a normal thing that you don't have to.
Am I back?
Yes, it's just like a normal thing that you.
But I'm on the Ethernet now. Like I'm plugged in. This should be good.
Anyway,
okay.
So also, it's a normal thing.
Okay, this is just me. Okay, but yeah, like so, I know the process. I'm like super comfortable with it. I've educated myself. I've gone to the extremes to figure out what's going on, and now I'm not going to say it's like breathing for me, but it's so much easier. And I think. If I can do this, like seriously, if I can do this, anyone can do it.
Yep.
So
if they have the time to get away and can go,
you have the time
things.
And you're near a capital city. Yeah. I have I am hashtag blessed that I am in Tallahassee that I could just.
You are, but here's another thought too. Like we're talking about several things here, but one of them is run for something. Get up in there and get involved and make a difference. And again, you can do that too. Like that's, first of all, while this is not a positive on my chart of positives and negatives, it's only a couple of months out of your life that you really have to go be in Tallahassee to do the session and the committees and all the things. And then most of the work is back in your district and
exactly.
Back at home.
But I think go ahead.
No,
but I think the system's also set up as it's fairly classist in a way, because I was looking at the salaries of representatives because I was just like, I wonder if I could run, what would happen?
Right.
It doesn't pay much.
You'd lose your house.
You
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like you
I
have to
know. I've
have
looked too.
you have to be fairly well off or like
Yeah.
established in some way in order to be a representative, at least a good representative. If you want to go in and just, do your 60 days and be done with it,
Right. Which a
fine.
lot of them do.
Which a lot of them do. But I mean, you look at people like Anna Eskamani, who
Oh, she is
works her
crushing it.
ass off
She is crushing it.
year round.
Yep.
Constantly on it, and she does not give a shit if you are Republican or Democrat. She
Yep.
has got every person in her district unemployment in a really
Yes.
crappy unemployment system.
Yep.
Like she's the AOC of Florida, and if people outside of Florida don't know who she is, like
Right.
just get ready. She's going to be our governor. She'll be president. She's amazing.
Yeah, she's great.
But like she works her ass off 24/7, and it's like, and she's getting paid nothing to be a representative. Like it's not much at all. So so there's a classist thing going on. Like you have to have money somehow, or have to have another source of income. Or I'm not saying she does or anything, but if you want to be good at what you do and commit, you have to do that. So
tell me if this is current.
Okay.
$29,697 a year plus per diem.
Yep. Plus per diem. It's like during session you get per diem. I don't know how much the
Right.
per diem is, so that could be
Can't
a lot. I
possibly
don't
be.
know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you do have to have housing in Tallahassee for
Right.
couple
Right.
of
That's travel and subsistence.
Yeah.
Is what
And
that is.
and most reps go back on their districts on the weekend, and Florida's a big
It's
state.
big state. Yeah.
It's a big state.
But
So-
like, I mean, I manage a parking garage, several
Mhm.
parking garages. I work for a government agency, and I
Mhm.
make not quite twice that.
Mhm. Yeah. Like, but you
so
couldn't.
for me to do that,
Mhm.
that's a big sacrifice.
It's a huge sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's huge. And so there's a class issue when it comes to running for office. At least at the state level. I think even the city level. I was looking at the city level stuff. That's a full-time job to be a city council person, at least here in Tallahassee. We have a council that's actually pretty good, and they commit full time. Like you cannot have another job, and I don't think it's. I haven't looked at that recently, but I don't think it's paid that great.
Right.
So you
Right.
have to have a supplemental income or family income or support somehow.
See, I think I would hope maybe that that would the way the pay is set should, I would think, encourage lower income folks who aren't making that much at their $8-9 an hour job because we still live in Florida. That could go, that like you could go do this and represent low income wage earners and
Yeah.
whatever all of the other things that we know that affects a lot of things in people's lives. That puts you into all of these other categories too. Like you could go be the person that represents on behalf of people who are making $8 an hour.
And I
you
think
could do it.
You could do it, but I think that first step to get to
Yep. You got to
being
go to the
rep,
party and you got to schmooze and you got to
you've got to schmooze.
raise money.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap
Yeah.
to like apply for, office,
Yeah.
like to run, to get yourself on the ballot. That's a chunk of change, and that's
Yep.
usually before anyone knows who you are. So
That's true.
there's financial obstacles to get into running for office, at least at the state and higher level. So I mean, this is the world we live in, and I don't know how to fix it.
Right.
I'll admit
Yeah.
that.
And so, I guess maybe the closeout of this is like, so we're doing what we can with what we have, and trying to make the biggest impact that we can. And hopefully we can bring people on the ride with us. If you're paying attention to this stuff, like it really does make a difference to call.
Totally.
It feels like it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
It feels like
totally
it doesn't,
does.
but it does.
It really does.
Yeah.
Call your reps.
Yeah.
Call your reps.
Call before email.
It's more annoying. They pay attention to that.
Yeah. And and try to make waves and make a splash. And tune in here if you want to know like what we're keeping our eyes on and what we're working on. I don't know what the next big splash is going to be that we're gonna have to take on. We haven't really gotten into that lately, again, because bills are just flooding in.
I think I sent you the new one from the from Baxley, 19 Senate Bill 1986, which is going to give an exemption to healthcare workers and healthcare, pretty much insurance providers, if they a religious exemption, pretty much. So if they don't want to treat you because of their faith, or they don't want to pay for your surgery or whatever
Yep.
because of their faith or their conscience, is how it's stated, then they don't have to. Luckily, there's only a Senate bill. There's not a companion bill
Yet.
but well, it's too late. It's too late. But at the same time,
Okay.
like this is something else I've learned, that so in Florida, at least, if you want to have a bill passed, it has to pass through the House and the Senate. So
Right.
two similar bills at
Right.
least.
Right.
They'll figure out the differences in the end.
Reconciliation later. Yeah.
But if there's only one in one chamber and not the other, the side that does not have the bill can adopt
Right.
the voted upon chamber's bill
Right.
as their own, so that it can still happen. Not always, but it's a possibility this could go through.
Right.
And
But
the
you know what
House-
that sounds like to me? It
What's
sounds a little bit like cancel culture. Like
What are you talking about?
like,
What?
if you're trans and you want to be able to, I don't know, get services at a medical facility, they
Yeah.
can cancel you, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, are you sure about
Isn't
that?
that what that bill would do? Isn't that real funny
know.
that I made a note of this too, that I mentioned Dr. Seuss when I was talking to JR, and it didn't even like register like, oh, that's a big thing right now. Like,
That's
oh,
a thing.
Dr. Seuss has been canceled. No, he hasn't.
No, God damn it, people.
6 books are no longer going to be printed. Big freaking deal.
I have one of those books here. You can have it. It's not that great. It's
No,
not
no,
even
no.
that great.
No, it's real. No, it's rare now, Devon. Sell it. What are you talking
Oh my
about?
gosh.
You can make some money off of that thing.
Oh,
That's
no.
a collector's item now.
Well, guys, hit me up.
It's like Song of the
Take a-
South. If you could get a copy of
Oh
Song of
my
the South,
God.
big money.
Zippity doo dah.
Do you know, like, where was the cancel culture outrage when we canceled Song of the South? Oh my God, I'm just so
I remember
over
seeing
this
it
stuff.
in theaters like the last time it came out, like
Yeah?
in the late 70s, early 80s. Like I remember seeing that, and it was insane.
Dude, I had like an old 45 of all the music from it. I think I might have even had a book on tape. Remember those when we were kids? We had the books on tape, and it would like
Yes.
beep, and then you turn the page.
You turn the
and it
page, yep.
beep. Oh, that was
God.
great. Yeah, I had one of those. Sure.
Song of the South.
You know what? You can't
Oh.
buy it anymore because it's racist garbage.
I mean, it's pretty racist. Let's be
Like-
honest. It's pretty racist.
But now they're changing the ride. How dare they? Burp, derp, derp.
Oh,
Because it's racist.
It's
Oh my
it's
God.
racist, people. We can move on. Go deal with something else. Don't you have problems
No,
in your life?
no, they don't have anything else to
They
do.
need to have something in their
Holy
lives.
moly.
Lordy. my
God. So what's next? Jesus. See, these are the things that you could be calling in and arguing with us about. I'll let you argue about that.
I don't debate.
No, I don't debate either. But like as a topic of this is something we're discussing tonight. This wasn't even on our list, man.
We can fight about Song of the South all day. Come on, bring it.
I don't care about your kalam, but the Song of the South is where I draw the line.
Zippity you draw your ass out of here. Come on.
Oh God.
Rabbit.
All right. So what do you got going on in the next couple of
Okay,
weeks?
I actually legit have something going on.
Yay! Great.
That's not in the capital.
Oh wow.
So this is we are collaborating with the Temple Israel, which is a synagogue here in town, in conjunction with the International Rescue Committee with the IRC. you can go to their website at rescue.org. They are the only secular State Department approved agency that will allow refugees into the U.S.
Okay.
So when refugees come in, they need to be assimilated somehow. They need to get housing. They need to get, jobs, clothing, furniture, etc. So there's a branch here in Tallahassee, and they usually bring in refugees from the Congo, from the DR, Democratic Republic of the Congo.
Okay.
And so we had a little fundraiser with them last year, and then COVID hit, and it kind of like put the kibosh on it.
Yep.
And so I've been working with the Humanist of Tallahassee has been working with the local temple, and we are doing a bedding drive with them. We're going to do a lunch and learn panel. If you go to our, I think it's on our Facebook page right now, or it will be soon. We'll have that out there, and I'll put it on Twitter and our website eventually. But on March 20th at 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern, we are going to have. Okay, I got to pull this out. Hold on. Look at my phone. I am very professional. So if you guys will all recall the Rough and Tumble, who was the Americana Songwriters of the Year last year. I don't know. They win awards.
They are the award-winning Rough and Tumble.
They do shit, and it's also my sister and my brother-in-law, and they're living in a camper in my backyard.
And
So
their music is great.
It's really good.
It really
is. I don't compliment people, especially family members, and they are fucking good. Okay, so we are putting together a little musical showcase with them and a lot of their friends, and all funds will go to the IRC. And so It's going to be the Rough and Tumble. It's going to be Pratik, Rupert Waits, Nathan Evans Fox, Taylor James Donsky, the Honey Badgers, and the Daily Fair. And so there's going to be a ton of different like alt folk bands, bluegrass bands. It's going to be fun. So we have a little bit on our Facebook page about it right now, but we will have more info in the coming days and weeks. So,
cool. And that's on the Humanist of Tallahassee Facebook page, right?
Yes, the Humanist of Tallahassee Facebook page. More info will come out about that soon. So I'm working on it now. I'm very not good at stuff, but I'm working on it.
That's awesome. That's so good. This is one of those things when we talk about like, let's go out and do good things. Mm-hmm. A lot of people see you being the angry atheist at the Capitol, and they think, wow, that's atheism. But it's so not. It's not. So much more than that. We care about stuff, and we're out in the community doing things, making a difference. And that's just awesome. I love it.
Yeah. So it'll be live streamed on Facebook and YouTube and probably somewhere else. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah.
That's awesome.
That's it. March 20th.
Cool. And then you're just on standby until, they call you and say, hey, there's a garbage bill we need you to come talk about tomorrow at the state.
I have something scheduled on Monday and Tuesday, so nothing better happened on them. So yeah. Cool. Hopefully not. Otherwise, you'll see me on the Florida channel, I guess.
Yes. Well, I recorded earlier today. I've mentioned that a couple of times. I did the Secular Soup podcast with Amy and Amy.
Amy Squared.
Amy Squared. It's Amy with a Y and Amy with an I. And they're just so much fun. I did, for those of you who are Secular Soup fans, yes, I did get a word in edgewise. That's kind of the whole thing. It's the joke is that they just talk without their guest. No, not me. So that was fun. It'll be out soon. Their production schedule is like record a show, release it to their patrons, and then when they feel like it, maybe they'll push it out publicly. So you should go check out their Patreon. And if you want to get my interview with them a little sooner.
Speaking of Patreon, don't you have a Patreon?
We sure do. What a great segue that was.
Oh God, I did that. That was so organic. I did that myself.
We do have a Patreon at patreon.com/polkatheists. Ours is set up on a monthly basis, so you can pledge $3 or more to support the show. I will. Please go do this. The laptop that I'm using to stream the show with at the moment is a hand-me-down. Thank you, John. We love you. Is a hand-me-down, and it's doing that thing where the battery doesn't charge higher than 57%, and then like if the power goes out and it's running on battery, it'll go down to 56, and then it won't charge past that. So like we're really like milking the last little bits out of this computer. So we're gonna need a new streaming computer soon. Patreon.com/PolkAtheist. All the money goes towards the show. So that's a thing that you can do that would be super helpful. And if you can't, we get it. Like times are tough. If you could then like, subscribe, share out the episodes. We will be able to do donations on our YouTube channel at some point, but YouTube has like a ridiculously high bar that you have to cross of how many subscribers you have and how many hours viewed you have in a certain length of time. And so you need to really like get the word out there and
just watch everything on
just put it on repeat. There's actually a Freethought in Florida playlist that you can snag and just watch all of them back to back. I'll tell you what I do, and this has helped some other channels. For as long as I can remember, I have been unable to sleep without noise. Just have always been. There are pictures of me like 7 years old with the big 1980s headphones on, hooked up to a record player that I was probably listening to Song of the South, read along with Song of the South, as I slept, and I was just out like a light. And so now, fast forward, 30, 40 years later, now I still have to have
Becky
noise
hates
playing.
you so much.
She
Becky
does. Well,
hates you so
I
much.
sleep during the day now.
Oh, that's right.
So it's not so bad. But I will put on a YouTube channel that I like and let it play, and it just keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. And that helps their views. So you can do that for us. If you're one of those people that has to have noise while you sleep, pick us. That's a long way to say watch our channel.
Watch the freaking channel, people.
Next week on Freethought in Florida. I don't know what we're doing next week on Freethought in Florida. You're hosting with me, apparently.
Am I?
You are, according to the calendar.
Oh shit! Okay.
Hey, plan something good, will you?
This is actually something planned. We have something planned for once.
But we could totally pick out some topics. Hey, here's an idea. Send us an email. Let me create an email real quick.
Send an email to us.
Send an email to info@fif.show. info@fif.show, and we'll take your suggestions, and maybe we'll talk about them, or maybe we won't, or maybe Devon will disappear again. I'm gonna have to fire you.
I am on the Ethernet this time, guys. This is the problem. There are 50 people in my house. Right.
Are they all using the internet?
I think they are.
Is that a thing?
I think that's actually happening. We have
Lord.
a 50-foot long like Ethernet cable from the downstairs
Good
router, whatever
Thank
it is,
you. Thank
upstairs.
You. Yeah.
However,
It's not
I heard
working.
someone on the stairs like 3 seconds ago, so that was probably like it shifted somehow.
That's just
I
fantastic.
am sorry, everyone.
All right. Well,
So send us hate mail.
Send us hate mail. Send Devon hate mail. Send us ideas.
Devon.Graham at something.
Send us ideas to talk about on the next episode next week, and we'll take your calls maybe if you want to play that game. But that's going to do it for this week on Freethought in Florida. We'll wrap up the show here. Make sure you check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and the popular podcast players. You can find all the links to subscribe, which is at our new website now at fif.show. Like, subscribe, share out the episodes, and you can find all about the atheist community of Polk County at polkatheists.org, and follow at Polk Atheists on all the social media. And remember the 3 most important modified things: wash your hands, wear your mask, and be kind to each other.
Be nice, everybody.
We'll see you on the next
Drink your
Freethought
alcohol.
in Florida.
Ta-ta.